Our first contact was with his wife, Melissa. She blew in here one day like a fresh breath of air, and we all fell immediately in love with her, and now we're falling immediately in love with Joe. And I just wanted to say that you had a good forerunner that you sent out before you, Joe. And I will try to tell you about him. I know he lives in Okeechobee. He's a Central Florida guy, and I'll let him tell you the rest. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming out today. And really, I want to thank you for your work. I've served as the precinct committee man in Okeechobee for about 10 years, and also the state committee man for our Republican executive committee. Come on in.
I put him in front of the door. I wondered if that might happen. But
really, the work that you do is important, and it's the only way that we're going to get out there and we're going to turn this thing around. And you know, something that I encourage people to do all the time is folks that you don't know, whether they're Republican or Democrat, that are your neighbors that you're comfortable talking with, go ahead and start asking them where they stand on things. And if they're on the other side, try to bring them to the middle, bring them closer to us, and really try and change their mind, because you know, this election is going to be close. It's not going to be the same election as last time. Obama's not going to bring out the folks who are graduating high school, and the folks who are graduating college right now. They don't have employment. It's not the same place we were 4 years ago. And if they show up, they're going to be more in the middle. And the truth is, most of them aren't going to show up. They're not motivated. You don't have kids on TV saying, I'm going to get a free car. You're not seeing that happen this time. And, well, it happened last time. I mean, everybody remembers that, but it's on my tank. You're not seeing that this time. It's a very different election. It's going to be much closer. And if it's going to be close, we have to get out there and make those 2 or 3 percentage points. And we can do it. It's going to be us. It's going to be you on the ground that's going to make that difference in this election. You know, we need a president who's not happy, you know, who's not proud of America for the first time in his adult life, or his wife either. We need a president who has been proud of America for their entire adult life. We need a president who's been to all 50 states. Not all 57 states. You know, there's some just fundamental things here that are very, very different. And we need to bring out all those weaknesses that Obama talked about in the past. We need to bring up, you know, who built this country? We built this country. You know, it's our hard work. It's not somebody else's. It's not the government's. You know, it's not the government's money. It's our money. And they need to be responsible with our dollars today. And you know, I was going to talk a little bit about my campaign, but we need to be motivated for this upcoming election, and that's what's really important. And it's not just winning the presidency. We have to at least maintain the House, and we really need to do better than maintain the House. We need to pick up seats, and not just with we've got to pick up seats. And it's not just Republicans. Folks who are voting again and again to increase spending and say they'll never raise taxes are the reason we're in the condition we're in today. What we're doing today is unsustainable. And I've been a Republican my whole life, but I'm very frustrated that we continue to increase the spending and not raise taxes. And it's not the raising taxes that's the problem. It's the increased spending. We continue to grow our debt. We don't have a balanced budget amendment. And if we don't change that part of it, our children and their kids and their children, the great-grandchildren, the future generations will never have the same opportunities that we've had.
Amen.
We have to get our fiscal house in order. It has to be a priority. Jobs have to be a priority. And what I think we should do with jobs is this. And maybe this is just a simple farm boy's thinking. For a number of years, we don't charge sales tax on any product made in the United States of America. Every store will have a sales tax-free section of products made in the USA. You and I will seek those products out. In fact, they'll have that section, and we'll be able to find them for a change. So when we can find the products, we'll buy them. Manufacturing has to increase because demand increases. As the manufacturing increases, we put people back to work. As we put people back to work, they pay into the IRS. We borrow less money from China. And the states that we're working with, what we do is we reimburse them by not funding our enemies like Pakistan. And as we reimburse them, then they can stay on a level playing field. But the only way that we're going to get this economy turned around is to bring manufacturing back, and it's going to have to be consumer-driven. That's the way to make it consumer-driven. If you look at things that we've passed in the past, like the super committee basically was a vote to increase the debt ceiling. And the Republicans jumped on board with that, thinking that something would happen. But as we saw with the super committee, They couldn't even come up with a solution. So what I think is this: anybody who voted for the super committee, and I don't care which party it was with, they gave up some of their personal liberty as a congressman. It's their responsibility to control the monetary supply. So if they gave up their personal liberty as a congressman, why should you or I expect them to protect ours? It's a real issue. If you look at the bills that are written today, take the Federal Aviation Reauthorization Act. Basically, the Republicans voted for it because it was supposed to bust the federal aviation unions. Democrats voted against it for the exact same reason. That bill has a provision that puts 30,000 drones over the United States of America at a cost of $64 billion. Nobody should have voted for that bill. And part of the problem is that nobody reads the bills anymore because they're too thick. My solution...
I agree with that.
Well, it's true. Nobody reads them anymore. My solution is, if we're going to have pork, let's just make a pork bill, call it a pork bill, and pass a pork bill once a year. But if we do that, we can get rid of all the other things that are attached to the bills we're trying to pass, and we can streamline them. If we can streamline the bills to say what they're supposed to do, make them simple 5 to 10 page documents, then we don't have the partisan politics. And you'll know where people really stand. They can't say, well, I passed it because of this part, or I passed it because of that part. They'll pass on their merits. And that's where we've gotten away from where we ought to be in this country today, is we've got to get back to voting on bills for their merit. I'm going to go to my teleprompter here because I wrote some notes down on my, well, you can see it's MapQuest. I've been driving a lot. We actually have 10 counties in this district, and in Polk County, it includes Frostproof, Lake Wales, Fort Meade. It goes into Winter Haven, basically everything east of 17 and south of Dundee Road, all the way out to the river, and it goes all the way down to Lee County, across back to Glades, parts of Hillsborough, and so it's a huge county. Land-wise, I think it's the second largest district in the state of Florida. You know, going back to the president, we need a president who continually salutes our flag. Yeah. It's just somebody who will release their business and school records.
Yes.
Somebody who we're sure is an American citizen. You know, we have to restore faith in government. And I believe that right now, I don't care which party you're with, we've been to a lot of doors, and we've been to close to 17,000 doors at this point with this campaign. So we've had tremendous help. And as you said, my wife is kind of, if you relate it to a football game, she's kind of the blocking back. She comes in and meets everybody, and I'm able to come in afterwards and meet. But what really has happened is this. We started renting a place in Charlotte County for a month, and she started door-to-door there. And I'm like you, I'm a working class citizen. I've got to go to work every day. I'm still working 40-hour weeks. I take some time here and there to be able to run this campaign. But I'll go in on the weekends or in the evenings and meet folks and go to different meetings. But we just have to restore the faith, and the only way we're going to do that is to have one-on-one conversation. One of the biggest problems to me today in D.C. is we send folks there, and they live there, they're around the lobbyists the whole time, they're not in the district. Session is only 108 days a year. They are out of session for more than 2/3 of the year. If they were in the district, around the people, they would know the true concerns of the district, and they wouldn't be around the lobbyists and that mindset. I really think they get brainwashed once they're there, and they really listen to misinformation about what's going on. I don't think most people struggle with the things that you and I struggle with every day that are there anymore. I think that we have to. I think that our U.S. House and Senate need to, really the way to work together is to make 3 priorities a year. If the House and Senate would say, here's 3 priorities that we're going to deal with this year, we could move forward. But instead we end up in gridlock. And so I think that, you know, you and I do it in our household. We make priorities all the time. And I don't see that at the federal level today. If you look at the regulations today on businesses, it's the reason that businesses send jobs overseas is because they're overregulated. It's not just businesses that are overregulated. You and I are overregulated. We can't even choose what light bulb we want to buy today.
Repeat all that if you get it.
I'll do my best.
I've got a supply up in the attic.
But, you know, the number one priority, in my opinion, is getting employment back on track. And we can argue or reverse this. And number 2 is repealing Obamacare. We have got to repeal Obamacare. Yes. And, you know, yes. we should never, ever pass a bill that somebody says we have to pass it to read it. Well, it's the opposite of the intent. You know, but realistically, I don't think most people know the Constitution's there that are in office today. They sure don't abide by it. They sure don't consider it before they vote on something. And there's two things I think that they should consider on every bill. One of them is, what's it going to cost? And the second is there a place in the Constitution that it fits?
Amen.
And if you would have those two parts, what's that? Well, that's fine. It can be the first one, but those are the two parts that every bill should be considered on.
Yes.
Realistically, we have to take our country back. Again, there's three things that we have to do. We have to win the House. We've got to get rid of Bill Nelson. Yes.
Yes.
And we have to make Obama a one-term president. And truly, I thank you for all that you do, because this is where it's going to happen. In fact, I'm on the I am state committee member of Okeechobee County, so my chairman's missing me today, and my wife is state committee woman, so you can imagine that in a small county, we're part of the workforce there. But really, thank you for all that you do. I'll be here for questions for a little while. Well, I can take questions now if you prefer.
Fair tax.
I believe in the fair tax, absolutely. The only problem that I have with the fair tax is on housing. I think that housing should be something that we maybe just continually have exempt. Because if you're looking at 23 to 26%, it's going to prohibit people from buying a house. So I think there are some pieces in there we have to look at. But I agree with the fair tax, because you're only taxed on consumption.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about term limits? I think that's one of the
One of my priorities on my form over there is term limits. And the number of years is kind of arbitrary, realistically. I think that House should be either 6 or 8, and Senate should be 12. Is where I stand on term limits. Oh, come on, give me a tough one.
Border security.
Border security. Well, there's a couple ways to deal with border security, and a lot of countries have a watchtower every so far, and they know how far their bullets go, and if folks come across the border and then they hear shooting, there's going to be a lot less chance of them crossing. The other solution is it would solve 3 problems, and that's you go ahead and dig a canal down there, you send the dirt to New Orleans, and they won't flood anymore, and you take the alligators out of Florida, send them over there, and it solves our problem as well. So that's another way to deal with it. But secure borders are a national security issue, and we're not dealing with it as that. And there's another issue with not just border, but illegal immigration, and that's we have almost as many people here on expired visas. So what we've said generally, without saying it, is if you're of color, we're going to deal with it, which we're not. And if you're not, we're not going to deal with it. So there's really more. The complexity there is in more depth than what anybody's really dealing with at this point. But we've got to get on board and move forward. Yes, sir.
How can you keep the Republican Party on track for marriage?
I don't know that you can, but here's what I think. The issues change all the time.
Joe, what was the question?
How can you keep the Republican Party on track for marriage is the question.
For marriage?
Basically between one man and one woman.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know.
Go away.
Well, really, the issues change, but values don't. And it's a matter of electing the people that have the same values that you do. And what we do is, with Charlie Crist, we excuse things. But we can't excuse things anymore. We've got to, I get frustrated when they say, well, this candidate can't win because they don't have the money. This candidate can't win because of that. Forget that. Vote for the candidate that has the same values that you do, and we'll get this country back on track.
I have a problem with voter identification right now.
Yeah.
What's wrong with voter identification? Why can they not be responsible for signing up to vote and vote? And why can't we look at their identification?
We ought to be able to look at anybody's identification. If you get pulled over on the side of the road, you pull your identification and you show it. It's why can't we? It's because it's somebody's agenda right now. And the agenda is, in my opinion, to have amnesty across the board. Yeah. And that's part of that program. And they're not coming out and saying that, but that's really what it's about.
I mean, I'm proud to say, here's my voting card. I want to vote. This is my privilege. I want to vote.
If you got pulled over without a driver's license, you wouldn't be driving anymore.
I would go, my fault?
Absolutely. So if you go to vote without a voter's identification card, why do you expect to be able to vote?
If you attend the Democratic convention, you have to have an ID.
There you go.
Exactly right.